Okay, so here's the version that was showing in your grade book. I'm not sure if it's your current one, but this is the one I can see. So this is actually a little bit different than the example that I did for the last person. In theirs, they had a 7 up here, and that 7 wasn't going to reduce anywhere. This time, if you look right there between that 8 and that 6, there's a common 2. So because of that, I'm going to take a little bit different approach. What I did in the last video would still work, but this would be an easier technique on this specific example. So let me show you that. We're still going to do where we take the eyes out and get that squared away first. So we'll do that and that. And then that's going to give us I, and this is square root 8 right here. I times I would make an I squared, and that's going to make a root 30 in the denominator. And like, you could cancel those, but you really don't want to, because the I is actually where you want it. So rather than reducing and getting an I downstairs again and having to rationalize that, we want to note that that's just a -1. And so let me rewrite this now as negative I. So this is just the -1 from here that's producing a negative in front like that. And then there's that property that says if we have two things under a radical and they're not negatives, they gotta be greater than 0. If that is helpful, I can think of them as, in my worst handwriting, a single fraction. So that's what I'm going to do right here. And while I don't have to show that step, it maybe will make it easier for you to see where I'm going to reduce the 2 out now. So that's going to be a negative I, and then upstairs we're going to have a 4, and then 2 goes into 30 15 times. So downstairs we have a 15. So now I'm going to think of that kind of the other way. I'm going to think of it as square root 4 over square root 15. And I'm showing a lot of steps here that don't need to be written. I'm just trying to hopefully make it where you can follow. But this square root 4, I can now reduce down to a 2. And then that's over square root 15. So we're really close. Now we're down to where I just need to rationalize this denominator. I dealt with all these negatives by bringing out the i's and simplifying that to the -1 right there. I've reduced the fraction of the radical. I've simplified the radical as much as I can. And so now we're at this last step where I rationalize the denominator. So we'll do root 15 and a root 15 right there. And that is going to get us up top, that will be, let's see, negative I times 2 times root 15. And then downstairs, root 15 times root 15 would be square root of 225 or something, and then that reduces right back to the 15. And I think that's it. Formatting wise, if I'm writing this in strict A plus BI form, then I should write it this way. So that is my B essentially, and all of that is the coefficient of that I term. Because normally we have A plus BI. In this case, A is 0, so there's nothing there. And what we're seeing right here is the B, and then that's the I. So yeah, that's a tough one. There's a lot of little spots where that can go sideways. But to me, that was probably the best way to go about it. An alternative version, I won't do it all the way out, but I'll just show you what you could do and why I wouldn't do it, is right here, or even back here, I could have done a root 30, which would have taken care of that denominator. I would have got square root 30 times square root 30 is 30, but then I would have had this 240 up here that I would have had to reduce, and then reduce both of those, I would have gotten to the same spot. So for my preference, I like to simplify it. I like to get it as easy as I can before I do this so that I don't have to reduce those big roots. Hopefully that helps.